to the Town of Naples Ordinance Review Committee meeting. Today's Wednesday, July 16th. We'll call the meeting to order. Present, we have Greg Shackness, myself, Martina Witz, Kevin Rogers, Jason DiTucci, Kathy Eddy, and Kathy Tombarelli. We heard from Larry Anton and Mark Clement that they would not be able to attend today. So the first thing, so that was attendance. So the next thing on the agenda is update on the select board meeting where Kathy Tombarelli and myself spoke to the select board about items that we should be working on.
Did you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So I divided the agenda kind of accordingly. They wanted us to move forward with the subdivision changes, work on the height dimensional standard, which is currently 55 in all districts, work on the cell tower definition and standards for cell phone towers. That would be for the November referendum. And then to hold off on the street mobile vendor ordinance, food sovereignty or farm stands, marine safety and harbor master, and wait till the next round for that. And those are summer things primarily as well. So, and they're going to take a lot more work. I put private road standards down there as well, even though that's kind of related to subdivision, because I don't think we're going to get to those, to be honest with you. I think it's going to take more time to update the table and add private road standards, and I think there'll be a lot of debate on what those should look like too. So I don't think we'll get to those this round.
Okay.
Is there anything that I'm missing, Martina?
Well, we did spend an extensive
yes.
amount of time discussing short-term
Yeah.
rentals at that meeting.
Yeah. That should
And
be
I'm
on later.
Yeah, that should be later on.
Later.
I'm glad Kevin's here, 'cause I was a little confused on the takeaway from that, but
Yeah.
it was sort of like a couple people on the select board thought we should
It was
go
like a
ahead with it.
volleyball game where the ball went shooting out into the parking lot.
And it made us stay really late.
I think Kevin seemed to grasp our very
Yeah.
low bar that we
Yeah.
wanted to proceed with.
I think a lot of them did by the end of it.
Yeah. I think maybe after we get through this round of stuff, that we could maybe have two proposals, one for maybe a registration and one for just an ordinance, or it could be both, right? You know, so, but just a standalone ordinance, similar to the property maintenance ordinance we have, could be just as an advisory, you know, thou shalt do these, and that way, at least if someone calls us on one, we can say, here you go, this is what you need to be doing. So that one's going to be for that. Once again, that's primarily a summer thing, and by the time we get there, summer's over, so we'll start working that on fall and the winter.
Okay. Can I just ask one question about
Sure.
where it says for town meeting, May 2026? Do you mean like we're calling the voting part, like town meeting
The
part
second
two?
part
So
two,
it still would be
town
like a
meeting part two,
ballot
yeah.
situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. So does anybody have any questions on that update? No? Okay. So next item is to start work on the items for the November referendum, which will be here before you know it,
Before you know it.
sadly.
We're really going to have to get a lot done at the next meeting in August. We pretty much have to get it done because they have to have the stuff.
By early
Yeah.
September has to be posted, right?
Yeah, correct.
And then all the hearings, yep.
Yeah, so my goal is to get what we can get done. We're not going to be able to tackle the entire subdivision ordinance, but we can get some highlights. And fire suppression is the first one, and that's in the handout that you have, it shows a 117 at the bottom. I didn't do much to that yet because I had a conversation with the chief. Right now, he does have the authority to say what he wants. If you keep it simple, just by changing water storage shall be provided as necessary to meet fire protection needs as reviewed and approved by the fire chief. Or we can get more complicated and set a minimum of 10,000 cistern and then X amount for each additional lot, type of thing. Or we can separate, the other thing that I thought might be less confusing is potentially separating it out, sufficient water, and have for potable water, drinking water, and then have for fire suppression. And so have an A and a B, and then list out what's required for potable water and what's required for fire suppression. So, I'm open to listening. I've already sat down with the chief and talked to him. The problem with setting the minimum at 10,000, are you going to require that for minor subdivisions too? or not. And the problem with setting it another additional 1,000 per lot or whatever it is, eventually you may have too much water, but the chief can, at his discretion, say, no, we don't need 100,000 gallons, for example. You guys don't get a lot of 26 lot subdivisions, but you can actually have more water than you need. So I'm kind of looking for some direction. The chief definitely had some direction, but what he's really concerned about is that he has the authority to do what he needs to do. I also think we could divide it out by the types of fire protection that are allowed, which would specifically not include fire ponds. So we could put sprinklers meeting NFPA Fire Safety 13, or a cistern, and have a little blurb under each one of those. So I just wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts. If you don't, I'll sit down with the chief and we'll just blast something out.
So you see, the first suggestion is to potentially put, require sprinklers in new homes?
Sprinklers or cistern, either or, not,
Yeah.
in subdivision.
Only in a subdivision?
Yeah, only in subdivision, not on individual lots.
Well, whether it's a 3-unit subdivision or a 26-unit subdivision, chances are there's only going to be one home on fire, right?
Yeah.
Right? So the requirements, whether it's a small or large one, shouldn't
be
change.
different.
Shouldn't be changed. How much water supply do you need, chief,
Yeah.
before your tanker and your engine run out of water?
Yeah. I don't hate just keeping it simple, because the way we have it right now with just a little bit of wordsmithing, the chief's in the driver's seat, you
Yeah.
know? But developers do like things to be bullet by bullet too, you know? These are your options. You can do a cistern or sprinklers.
Yeah.
And then meet with the fire chief, you know, and to make sure that it's enough.
Yeah, that would be the way to go.
Yeah.
Because, all depends on the size of the home too.
It
could be
depends on, and where.
giant homes or
Yeah.
smaller homes,
Yeah.
how big or small you need it.
And-
That'd be on the chief.
And how far he is from another water supply, or how far he is from a station, you know, that kind of plays into it too. So it doesn't feel like it's, you know, if it's very rural and it's gonna take him a while to get there,
Right.
you know, so I kind of think leaving it in the hands of the fire chief makes sense, and then just maybe putting the two options, cistern or water, and specifically saying that fire ponds aren't an option.
Okay.
Size and quantity under inspection of the chief.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you said, your mileage may vary. It could be a small, large house, could be a small, large subdivision, and he's gonna, we bring him in when we want to ask about access for roads, and he says it's turnarounds and all that other stuff, so
yeah.
let him make that evaluation at the same time.
I know I don't, but I don't think anybody else has the training for that either.
What's that?
I don't think anybody here has the training for that either. He does.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get rid of fire ponds, and that is because of the maintenance and the reliability?
Most towns have gotten rid of fire ponds because the maintenance is always an issue. The homeowners
Clearing
association
them out?
doesn't take care of them, they dry out. Yeah, so it hasn't been as bad lately, but there was a couple of years where there was no water in any of the fire ponds. And so Gray and some of the other towns decided to just not allow them at all. Existing subdivisions that have fire ponds, they're not gonna be forced to do anything, but just going forward. And that's what I've heard from the chief as well. They just don't hold, or they don't hold water, the liner gets ruined, or something of that nature.
So I'm just confused why we were talking about potable water with this. Are we talking about having
I think
capacity to save water that's potable?
No,
Or are
I
we
think-
talking about needing to identify how much water these wells are going to be creating? I guess I didn't understand that.
I think I'm just thinking about maybe restructuring this whole section 8, because it's kind of mix and match. It talks about fire hydrants, and then it talks about wells, and then it talks about fire again, and then it talks about water supply, and I was thinking about maybe just dividing it
Okay.
into two
I see.
sections.
So,
You know what
yeah,
I
I
mean?
don't think, so my opinion is anything having to do with potable water should not be in the same section as fire suppression.
Agreed.
And having not read this recently, and we just got it this morning, so the first thing that comes out here, jumps out at me, says you can't have dug wells. That makes sense. That should, so anything
Yeah.
having to do with potable water should be in a separate section,
Yeah.
I think.
I was-
Just for ease of reading.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it's very
Yeah.
confusing, it seems like
Yeah.
it's all
Mixed
mashed
together.
together.
Yeah.
I'll look at other towns and see if I can separate the two, but so it could be fire suppression and then potable water, or it could be
Yeah.
sufficient water, and then under that is A, fire suppression, and B, sufficient water, or
Yeah.
potable water. So I'll figure out a way to separate it, but it just reads weird to me, you know,
Okay.
I'm like, what do I need to do? We're talking about, you know, fire hydrants and water supply, and then we're
Right.
talking about hydrants, and now we're talking about dug wells.
Right.
So it just doesn't flow for me.
But so overall, we're saying that we'd like to provide developers with an opportunity to either use sprinklers or a cistern, and we're leaving it ultimately up to the fire chief. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll come up with some final language, and I'll have the chief review it first before I bring it back.
Okay.
And hopefully that one will be pretty easy.
Sounds like it. All right. Zipping right along.
Knock
Make a
that
motion
one
to adjourn.
down.
Make a motion for Kevin to get us some coffee.
Right.
Thanks, right,
Bring
right,
back
Everything, baby.
recess.
yeah, extra large.
I'll bring them next time.
Subdivision performance guarantee phasing.
So now go
It
to,
should be phasing or phrasing?
should be
It says,
phasing.
it does say, no, it does say phasing, I'm just wondering, I'm just questioning.
So the next, it says 119 on the bottom of the land use ordinance.
Yep,
Okay.
phasing of development,
I added a whole big section about phasing.
that's the red part.
Yep, that's the red part.
So this, phasing of developments. The board may approve plans to develop a major subdivision in separate and distinct phases. This may be accomplished by limiting final approval to those lots abutting that section of the proposed subdivision street which is covered by a performance guarantee. That's confusing to me. Okay.
Right.
When development is phased, road construction shall commence from an existing public way.
What that means is you can't start at the back.
Oh,
Yeah, and you know what I mean, you start.
so if
from the-
someone really likes the desired
So,
lots in
yeah,
the back,
yeah.
right, have a gravel road and then,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but could they potentially build the houses at the back first, so long as they have the road in?
Road in.
As long as they have the road
Road
in.
in, that's
Okay.
what we're
Yeah, yeah.
interested, okay. Sometimes the lots at the back are the more
Are the more
expensive
desirable.
ones, and yes.
Right, the view.
Well,
is-
remember, phasing is an option, they don't have to phase either, I mean, but if you got a bigger subdivision, you know, really, you need to be selling the lots where the road's done first. This is just
Right.
I'm just throwing this out, that I pulled this from another town.
So final approval of lots in subsequent phases shall be given only upon satisfactory completion of all requirements pertaining to previous phases and with posting of a new performance guarantee for the next phase. Preliminary subdivision approval of all development phases in a phase subdivision shall establish vested rights against future ordinance changes, provided that adequate design documentation is submitted to verify, it's all same sentence,
Yeah,
that
it's a
all
long-
project phases meet all ordinance requirements in effect at the time of final approval of the first project phase.
So what this is basically saying is that you can come in with a subdivision plan and get preliminary plan approval for the entire subdivision, but then only get final plan approval for the section that you're gonna guarantee. And there might, you know what, the way I said that might be easier to
But better.
understand.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You
You
can-
boil down that ocean?
Yeah, yeah, so so I can definitely redo this, I just, I think, that's it, basically, you can
Yeah.
come in, you can get preliminary plan for all 26 A's, 26 lot special, but you're only gonna get final plan approval on what you guarantee, so if that's lots 1 through
Oh.
4, then it's it could be well, you know what, think about this, it could be, we could get rid of that whole part about next to the private roadway. It could be lots 6 through 10, as long as you build the whole road to 6 through 10, right?
Right.
So the
Well, 1 through
road-
5 and 6,
Yeah,
1 through 10 would have to be,
yeah,
right?
whatever it is, but you only get final plan approval on the ones that you guarantee, so when they come into final plan, they would have to have a performance guarantee estimate, and that's what we require, and they can only get building permits and COs on those lots. And as part of phase 1, we should, like, for example, include the fire cistern, right? You gotta build it in phase 1, and you're not getting certificate of occupancies until that's in and functional. That's the type
Would
of.
that be in this part?
Yeah,
That,
or
or would
would
that
that
be
go
in
back
the
and
fire?
fire? Yeah, I don't know, I gotta think about that. But that, we just need to make sure that the critical things are done. You know, if there's a stormwater pond at the beginning of the subdivision, like the one we did the site walk for last night, that needs to be completed, and the cistern needs to be in. But this, let me
You're
simplify
talking
this.
subsections now of
Yeah,
4 ultimately, right? But
Yeah.
if we say that,
yeah. So I just want to get phasing in there so that, because people have asked, or asked, can we phase this development? Can I submit less performance guarantee? And right now, we don't have any way to do that. It gets them money in the bank and some lots sold, and it gives them the ability to move forward. It's really hard to get a letter of credit or bond in the amount of some of these subdivisions. So it gives them an option. But I like changing it so that, changing this wording and make it simpler, more like my first sentence that I said, this is a provision that enables you to, do your subdivision in phases. And the part about preliminary plan approval is important. They will have vested rights in the preliminary plan approval, so that when they come back to do lots 5 through whatever, they don't have to build that to a different standard, because that would just be weird too, so.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
what that means, all right,
So if an ordinance or something changes,
Yeah,
from the
right,
time.
from 1 through 5 to 6
Yeah.
through 10,
yeah,
they'd be grandfathered, if you will, back to
yeah,
when.
what
those
their
standards.
first phase was done. So
For the entire project,
for the entire project.
sure.
That was approved on the preliminary plan subdivision plat.
Right, because they're gonna say, you moved the goalpost on me now.
Yeah, you move the goalpost and what do you get, like, let's say a road standards changes and you're gonna build it 2 feet wider,
Right.
that would just be weird.
Exactly.
Does this, I mean, I think it does, but so, I think our goal is so that in worst case scenario, a developer goes bankrupt or walks
Yeah.
away from the project
Yeah.
before it's 100% completed.
Yeah.
We want the infrastructure in place
Right.
regardless.
Yeah, 'cause you can't put that back on the
Yeah.
homeowners.
Right.
Yep, that's part of it, and the other part is that we need to think about if they don't come back and finish it, there's deadlines in here in 2 years. So if it's, and that's short, to be honest with you, but 2 years is really short, and we can talk about that later, but if they don't finish the subdivision, then the rest of the preliminary plan kind of goes away, would be null and void, because we don't have any performance guarantee for the rest, right? So,
So you mean if they don't develop all the lots within 2 years, is that what you mean?
that's what we have in our ordinance right now.
2 years, right?
Yeah, we have 2 years in here.
There is phase inspection on road construction somewhere in the subdivision. I've read it.
On road construction?
Yeah, or something. It's in there somewhere. I read it recently in the last
I'll
couple months.
I'll check.
So it would fall back and be like drag into this section ultimately,
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to do with like the big picture project. It has to do, I believe.
Just the road
I
itself.
believe, like to see that the road is being built to standard with the surface.
I'll
layers and
look
stuff
back
like that.
in streets.
How do we calculate the guarantee?
Their engineer provides an estimate. There should be a list that talks about roads, cistern, erosion and sedimentation, all of each item with the cost next to it.
And do we future value that so that if 2 or 3 years out,
Right now, we only do 100%, so 100 is.
Of the estimate.
Yeah,
so with the cost of things going up,
yeah, there's no provision for that. I saw that today. It says 100, some towns say 110, some say 120.
right? So my point is, if you're saying 2 years isn't enough,
Yeah.
and it should be longer, and I don't know what the longer is, but if in 2 or 3 years, the cost of putting a road in could
Yeah.
not be covered.
So I think because of our timeline, this might be future tackle, and maybe we leave it at 2 years and 100%.
Yeah.
Because that seems
That's-
reasonable. The worst case scenario, if they don't finish in 2 years, they come back and they get their plan reapproved,
Yeah,
That's why I
so-
think it's important we leave the 2 years in there then.
Yeah, if we're gonna stay at 100%.
And with the requirement of underground utilities and everything, I'm not even sure how they would not finish the road first.
Yeah, well,
I've seen them half-ass roads just
Yeah.
to get
Just
people
to get
in.
it in?
And
Yeah.
then they said, all right, when we get to sell the last lot, the Blueberry Pines did that back in the day. They said,
Yeah.
we sell the last lot, we'll pave it. And
Yeah.
it made sense, because you don't want to have all this
The work.
construction going
Yeah.
on and running over brand new pavement,
Right.
and
Or
cement
maybe
trucks
at least the
and
initial coat, not the
excavators.
final coat. I mean, who wants to live in a dust bowl for 2 years too, right?
But that was the condition, as long as the road was to standard, it was built from the subsurface, had the proper
Yeah.
layers and everything, and the last thing they did was, but the road was always passable, it was to standards,
Yeah.
except for the pavement.
Yeah, a lot of, in the past, what I've seen is a lot of people come up with a bond for the entire amount or cash escrow. And then once they get base paving and the first layer of paving done, they come back with a new estimate and request that amount to be reduced. Because nobody wants to do final pavement until all the houses are in.
Right, that makes sense.
But we need to have the provision of phasing, and we need to add some language to the escrow performance guarantee part, which is next on our list. So
And the only thing I see about so 2 years, so they put this in escrow, they did what they're supposed to.
Yeah.
But there's still more to do in 2 years, they're bankrupt already, and we need more escrow.
I know.
So the real question is, what is the essential details we need done, right? So that's what we need in escrow. We need to have a road paved, like you said, some towns do 120%.
Yeah.
So that for inflation and the cost, like asphalt can change the price, it does every year. So the one thing they definitely need to have in a subdivision is a road.
Yeah. And a
The fire
system.
stuff is,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
fire trucks and
Yeah.
if
Right.
there's not, but, so I'm not, maybe you're already leading into that the amount of money that's going in is for, the initial amount of money in escrow is for the road and right down to being paved, the whole thing.
The initial escrow is for everything, for the whole bit, and then if they phase it, the initial escrow would be for everything in that phase.
Right.
So yeah, that's for the whole amount, that means ditching, that means the stop sign at the end of the estimates that I've seen anyway in other towns, it's for the stop sign and the roads, the whole thing is in there. And then they can have it reduced later once some of those elements are. The hard part for me is bonds have to be renewed. The requirement was 5 years in gray, and the bond has to be renewed in 5 years, so you gotta track that. You gotta make sure that bond doesn't expire, or the letter of credit is still good. Cash is king, for sure, but nobody has, well, some people have, $500,000 put in hold up in the town of Naples, right?
I heard there's software now that can help the CEO department
Yeah.
keep track of the stuff over years
Yep.
and stuff. So I
Yep.
think that's something that the planning office the code office should propose
Yeah, we
during
talked about
budget season.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
we
go to,
talked
we
about
can go
that.
to the select board for that and then the town to get that money.
We did talk
Exactly.
about
We have
that,
talked about it.
because we're getting close, now that we have all those files scanned, pretty soon people can have access to those files, and then the next thing would be to be able to do a building permit online
Nice.
and then have a tracker for,
Randy was talking about
particular-
that. It's like, why we waited this long, really?
Yeah, I think they were looked into a program, but the cost was prohibitive, and so they were looking into some other ones. Anyway, so that, they just did that in New Gloucester last year, so we're not super behind the curve, it's just, we're a smaller town.
So you're gonna reword this phase?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it simpler.
To what you
Yeah,
actually said out
yeah, what
loud.
I said, yeah, I know why they're doing it,
Yeah.
I can understand why they're doing it, they're talking about having the first 4 or 5 lots off of the main road developed
Right.
first, but like the site walk we did last night, they were talking about doing the end, so we don't
Right.
wanna make them not be able to do
Right.
that, they just have to build the road,
Right,
so, so they'd have to escrow the road and everything for the last lots instead. So we don't wanna make it more complicated than it needs to be. So I'll wordsmith that, but I think that that's where it belongs, because phasing has to do with performance guarantee, that's why people phase, that's the only reason why people phase it, is because they don't have enough money. So I think it belongs there. If you flip the page, I added some language about the performance guarantee being able to be reduced.
so the amount of performance guarantee can be reduced when required improvements have been completed. The subdivider must provide a new cost estimate for a professional engineer, by a professional engineer for the remaining improvements prior to any reduction in the performance guarantee held by the town. That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, because if the price of
Easy to
asphalt goes up,
understand.
then
Right.
Yeah.
it's still there.
Yeah. And then there is nothing in the ordinance except for one sentence earlier about any modifications of a plan have to go back to the board, but it doesn't talk about what that means. And so I added, this is all under post-approval activities, performance guarantee and post-approval activities. So I added amendments to previously approved subdivision plans, because we're getting a lot of those. In fact, that's pretty much all we're doing right now. That is all we're doing right now, because 2 of them are ones that were approved back in '06, and 2 of them are amendments to major subdivision. And we really have no procedures for that.
Right. So you're dividing this into a minor and major, and so minor subdivision plans prior to making any change erasure, modification, or revision to a minor subdivision plan which has been approved by the board. The plan must be resubmitted to the board for their review and approval of the proposed modifications. If the proposed modifications result in 5 or more lots or dwelling units, the procedures for a major subdivision shall be followed. Okay, 5. That seems like, is that, it seems like a reasonable number for major, was that?
5 is major,
that-
that's
yeah,
a major
yeah,
subdivision
okay.
here. I'm hesitant about the dwelling units, and the reason why is because the new state statute that just got passed that's going through rulemaking may make 5 dwelling units not trigger subdivision if it's on the same lot. So I'm thinking about removing the dwelling units. Because they left subdivision definition at 3 or more lots within a 5-year period, but they removed the 3 dwelling units and changed it to 5 dwelling units. So I'm a little concerned about leaving the dwelling units in there.
And we can't, do municipalities still have the right to do that?
Yeah.
Since that seems to be a moving target? I mean, can we remove that, or are we gonna get slapped for that?
I think we can remove the dwelling units out of that definition, but let me dig around a little bit more. But I'm afraid if we leave that 5 or more dwelling units in there, and then they say,
Yeah.
nope, that doesn't trigger subdivision for
Right.
the 5 dwelling units.
Well, yeah, because it says or, so it
Yeah,
could,
yeah.
yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
and our definition for subdivision doesn't include dwelling units, so we don't have to worry about changing it. Our definition says 3 or more lots in a 5-year period.
Just lots.
Yeah, lots. So I think we'd strike the dwelling units just because that's such a moving target right now.
I think that's a good
And the
idea.
state comes back and says we have to have it in there, then we put it in there.
Yeah.
And then for major subdivision plans, an applicant for a revision to a previously approved major subdivision plan shall at least 28 days prior to a scheduled meeting of the board request to be placed on the board agenda. If the revision involves the creation of additional lots or dwelling units,
Same
do we
thing,
want to
yeah.
take that out of there?
Yeah.
Creation of additional lots, the procedures for preliminary plan approval shall be followed. If the revision involves only modifications of the approved plan without the creation of additional lots
Or dwelling
or get rid of dwelling,
Yeah, yeah.
the procedures for the final approval shall be followed.
And the reason why it goes back to preliminary is there's more submittals.
Okay.
There's more submittals. And I'll probably wordsmith these slightly. I just wanted to get them on paper right now for you guys to look at to see what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, because I'm wondering why under major, it talks about at least 28 days
Yeah,
prior.
I'm gonna
and
add
not
that.
at
I probably could strike that because that's our requirement
That's our requirement
anyway.
anyway, so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think we.
I think we can take that out and take out dwelling units.
Yeah.
And I think there's a C to add to this. I was thinking about this afterwards, review will be limited to, the scope of the review will be limited to the proposed modifications. We're not gonna go back through the entire subdivision plan, right?
Right.
But let me think about that, what that means, because
Well, that's kind of what we're doing now, right?
It is what we're
We're
doing
not looking at the
now.
entire subdivision
Yeah.
and all the projects we have.
right.
Okay.
So I'll have and then, the things that are crossed out are all those sketches are old. We're gonna get rid of all of those at the end. The ones of the subdivision, pictures of the subdivision, I think those didn't print.
Oh, okay.
You know the ones
Yeah,
that
I
have the
know.
street in the
Yeah.
road, we're just gonna strike all those and any reference to those. I have to go through this whole ordinance and make
They
sure
were
there's no
kind
references.
of hand-drawn and stuff
They
like
were all
that.
hand-drawn,
Okay.
everybody knows what a road cross-section is.
Yep.
When they're doing a major subdivision, they know what that looks like.
So we just did procedures for amendments, and now we just did that. Okay, so
and
now we're on,
removal of deleted
Yeah.
diagrams.
so we're,
Those two are done, right?
yep.
Yeah.
So now we're on to height dimensional standard, currently 55 in all districts.
So
So this is important
Yeah.
for other reasons
Yeah.
now. If you, I don't know if everybody else knows that, but the
Yeah.
state's talking about probably in a year or so telling towns that if something is affordable, the developer has the right to add another 15 feet to your highest structure that we already have. So that would mean that
70.
70 feet.
Yeah, that's tall.
That's
Give me an example of that.
crazy tall.
If there was, so
Rex.
No, that's way taller than, 70 feet's taller than that. I mean, 70 feet is
Next to
like,
Rex,
you know,
you can add up high.
6 stories, depending on the roof
it's about
pitch, could be more.
six stories,
Yeah.
yeah. So the state has already passed it, it's been signed into law, but it's going through rulemaking, and it says that for affordable housing developments, the height restriction is 15 feet higher than whatever the zoning
Okay,
district
for
is.
ADUs.
No, not for
No,
ADUs.
just
affordable.
Talking affordable housing developments.
Okay,
So
ADHDs.
in most cases would be a multi-family
Family,
building.
like apartments.
Apartment
probably.
complex type of
Yeah.
thing. So 70 feet would be really tall. So we need to look at our height. And this came up when we did the cell phone tower, when we realized that there was
Right.
55 feet in all zoning districts. I looked around, and most towns around us are at 35 feet.
Yeah.
And then they make I have the one pager, they
Yeah.
make exceptions for chimneys, flagpole poles, steeples, those types of things that are appurtenances to a primary dwelling unit. However, and this is important, however, such accessory structures or appurtenances require a lot line setback of distance no less than its height. So if
Oh.
someone wanted to build, and no one's gonna be building a new church, but let's say they were, if they want that appurtenance to be higher than the 35 feet, that's about fall zone.
Can't fall out of their property,
Yeah, off of their
Right.
property, right?
on either side.
On either side. It also has relationship to transmission towers and stuff like that. The thing that's missing in this definition is cell phone towers, and I think we left it out purposefully, because I think we're gonna deal with those differently, I think. So, you know, how cell
Yeah.
phone towers is
Well,
a
I think we
different
have to
animal.
because, well, first of all, we have to allow them. And
Yeah.
so we can't put a restriction in place that pretty much
Right.
says that they can't exist, right?
Right.
I think. So,
So, I mean, there's two ways to, I mean, you could just say 35 in all zoning districts, or you could say 35 in rural, critical rural and all that, and consider higher in commercial. I don't know what your guys' thought process is. A lot of this was related to fire equipment in the past, a lot of it was related to existing structures in the past, they didn't want to create non-conformance.
well, it still would be an issue. I mean, if we allowed 55 anywhere and when that law kicks in, then we're gonna have 70-foot tall buildings, and
Yeah.
we're still gonna need new fire equipment.
Yeah,
Rick's is 55 feet.
is it?
Yep.
There
That's
it is.
That's
There
when
it
it was
is.
actually made.
That's why
The ordinance was
They
made.
made
because of
for
that
bricks.
one. Yep. And at the
But
time.
that's just at its
and
very highest
That's-
point.
that's the cupola.
That whole structure is not, you can imagine how different that would even look if it was completely 55 feet
Yeah.
all the
Right.
way around. There's a
Right.
big difference than in the visual on that.
So 35 feet would still be pretty tall.
Yeah,
If you figure to the cupola of Rick's is 55 feet.
That's probably 35 out back, right? This one?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very tall building.
and that's,
It's more like right in there.
I mean, I think that's 3 stories.
yeah.
Well, anything that's existing would be grand.
Well, obviously, but I mean, I think we're just trying to get like a
Yeah,
visual, mental
yeah.
picture
No,
of what it
actually,
would look
isn't
like.
Causeway Marina's building is 35, and then the cupola was an extra just because it was decorative or something like that. And that's pretty tall.
I mean, I'm fine with 35, but in all of the years I've been on the planning board, we've never had anything come to us that would
It
be.
was taller than 35 feet.
Right, and we do
yeah.
have a pitch roof requirement now, so that, I think, helps keep things down too.
What's the new?
Is it, I don't want to say it wrong, I think it might be 512. I don't know, because I know that Long Lake Marina had to get a variance because it had changed, right?
Well, that probably has to do with snow load. We're in the high snow load
Yeah,
corridor
right,
too.
we had just
Yeah.
changed that the first year I was on the planning board, that had just changed the pitch.
I think wind and snow load, Naples is like in the highest category.
Yeah.
We're in that corridor that requires that.
It's like 90%.
35 in all zones seems
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
And
I
we
think-
can just throw it out there and for this discussion in the public and the world, and we
Yeah,
see
especially,
what happens.
Deal with it accordingly.
especially since we know what is gonna likely happen with the state.
Yeah, we're gonna have till, July 1, 2027 to adopt those changes in the state law
With the 15 additional.
with the 15 additional feet for
Okay.
affordable housing.
Okay.
Yeah. I would be surprised if this wasn't done in the 80s and the 90s when condominiums were the rage too. You know, and they were thinking potentially there could be a four-story condominium or something like that. But anyway, so 35 feet, that's easy.
Okay.
And I'll wordsmith, I think there has to be, you have to say something about flagpoles and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
people do
You wanna exempt
higher,
that.
we wanna
Yeah.
exempt that. Because our flagpole is higher than that, I'm sure. So we need to think about how we deal with that. And the last one, cell phone towers, that one's gonna be harder to do, I think. And so I just wanna get your input on that, and then I'll try to come up with something.
You can't, the towns can't prohibit them?
Nope. You can do an overlay, and you could do an overlay and have a area where it's allowed, but you can't do it in such a way that you've effectively prohibited them. Like if you picked all the valley, all the low spots and say, this is where you can put them, you
Right.
know they're not gonna put them
First thing
there.
that went to my mind,
What's the
like
problem?
Swamps and,
Yeah.
that's allow it.
That's right. So
There's
you-
a swamp right there, you have to put it right there.
Well, we can't be the first one entertaining this. Someone else must have
Oh, there's
drafted.
there's lots of towns that have gotten sued over it, and yeah, York had some sort of lawsuit, because they basically didn't want them either. So yeah, there's lots of other towns that have language, lots of different directions. Some of them limit the height, some of them have an overlay, some of them say they're only allowed in rural, or, or not, like not in the causeway, obviously, so, every town approaches it a little bit differently, and so I guess I'm looking for some input. At the very least, we need to look at a definition, because this is what we ran into issues with when it went through planning board. The commercial tower is defined as in radio, radar, television, radio, telephone transmitting, repeating, or broadcasting towers, and necessary accessory structures, but not studios or offices for such activities. They're talking about news they're not talking about cell phone towers at all.
Right.
This is older language. So do we add cell phone towers to the commercial tower definition? I don't think so, because then it would be listed as it would be allowed everywhere commercial towers are allowed.
Right.
So I think we have a
We should make it
separate
separate.
definition for cell phone towers.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to decide where they would be allowed, and then any associated standards.
So,
They don't use, when they build cell phones, cell phone towers, they don't use those towers for multiple reasons.
They use them for multiple carriers.
But not for, like, they won't sell it to a radio station or something like that.
They might, I mean, sometimes municipalities tag onto it for their fire radio service.
Would it be easier to determine where we don't want them as opposed to where they
Yeah.
are allowed?
I would say the only place that we don't want them is on the causeway. I mean, I
Right.
can't even imagine where you put it there, but you
Or
have to say
what about
it.
the commercial district though? I mean, that's all along the main road.
Can we
That's
say
where-
we don't want them visible from
Yeah.
our waterways?
Yeah,
Well, we've got 2 or 3 that are visible right
Yeah.
over here from
Yeah.
Long Lake,
yeah.
right?
Can we say that? They cannot be visible from our lakes
Then
and
I
waterways?
think
they're-
pretty much you're prohibiting them in
Right.
You're prohibiting them in the lake region.
Right. Which one? The
I mean,
lake?
they want to put it up high, so it's going to maximize their transmission,
Of
right?
course.
So the funniest thing, I mean, I don't know if it's funny or not, but after we had that cell phone application
Yeah.
come to us, I mean, I never even noticed where cell phone towers were before, and
Yeah.
suddenly
That's all I
see
see.
them everywhere. So one thing I did learn is that, or determine, is that the monopole is definitely something that is the only kind that we should allow.
Yeah.
Because that is aesthetically, as far as cell phone towers go, the
Right.
monopole does look less offensive than
Right.
the other, with all its scaffolding type of structure, so.
It seems as if that's what they're building now. That's,
But I think
yeah.
we should just say it
Yeah.
anyway, in case somebody wanted to go
You
retro
just
or
take that
something.
off the table.
Yeah,
So, and I'm hesitant, even though it is considered an essential service by the state, I'm hesitant to put it in our definition of essential service, because we allow that
'Cause
everywhere.
right.
So I think it needs to be a
Separate.
totally separate definition, which I can have ready for you for the next meeting.
And
What's the
then there were some
maximum?
items that we were using from the solar ordinance that I think that we applied to the
That
conditions.
That they can't be seen.
No, it was something,
Performance guarantees.
the performance guarantees were from that. And, if anything, if another carrier was going to be put on there,
They have to
they
come
have to
back
come back.
to planning
I mean, to
board.
have that in the ordinance would be better. We had it as conditions of approvals. Maybe we should at least look at the conditions of approval that we applied to that one
And
project.
try to,
And take some cues from that.
okay.
Um,
And I think in that one, you do require more than 100%
I think we
performance
did.
guarantee. I
Yeah,
think it's
did.
120.
Yeah.
Maybe
because
we think
felt-
about doing that in subdivision too. Maybe we just
Well,
strike that 100 and
well, I
do
think
120.
we felt like those
What we did with
carriers
the
could afford it.
inflation.
That's true,
right. We
and
did
that's
the
30
inflation,
years too.
Right,
That's
it's a lot longer.
longer.
And then we had the business about if it's not used for a certain amount of time, it would have to be, if it was decommissioned, it would have to be removed. So we took those cues from the solar farm
Okay.
ordinance. And then what else?
So-
I mean, we could address visibility, like where how it looks at the ground, where it comes to the ground with the fence, I guess. We could try to address some of that aesthetically. I don't know.
Do we have
We,
buffering
yeah,
standards?
buffering, I mean,
Okay.
because I think slow buffering there, it's not gonna, obviously you don't want to affect its ability to transmit, that's the whole
Right,
point,
right.
right? But something about, depending on where it is, how it looks at the ground level, I don't know.
Okay.
What about buffering standards because of the fact between residential
Residential
and
and
commercial?
Would those be the
Would that
same as, but maybe the same buffering standards apply?
Right. I mean,
But it's gonna be a commercial, that's tough because it's gonna be a commercial use in a rural district. So
Right.
you're gonna have two rural properties, but it's a commercial, I think it's gonna have to have its own, you see what I'm saying, because it doesn't really apply. Your buffering standard applies for properties in the commercial zone,
right.
abutting properties that are in a residential zone.
Okay,
And in most cases, these are gonna go in the rural zone,
right.
where that wouldn't work. All right, so I need buffering standards, I need performance guarantees. And can we put a maximum height? That's a question, I don't
know.
We know what this one's gonna be,
What was it, 120,
126, I wanna say.
right?
Yeah,
So-
that sounds right.
Yeah, 124,
Because it had the,
124 or
had that
26.
extra,
yeah.
It was, so it didn't need an airplane light on it.
It did
No.
not, it was below the
Just
FHA
below.
So
standards.
that could
Okay,
be
yeah,
a
because can
thing.
we have that trigger?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that could be a trigger thing, so it has to be below.
No, below FHA.
Right, because that means it doesn't need the lights, it doesn't draw more attention to it.
Exactly, yeah, the less,
Can
I
we
mean,
do
because I can
that?
see those, but-
Right, yeah,
but they're not flashing at me.
You know what I'll do is I'll draft it and I'll send it to our attorney and say, are we gonna get ourselves in a mess for this?
Right.
I think on this one in particular.
right.
Just, is this gonna be a trigger for a lawsuit if we don't allow them to go over this height?
Right.
Yep,
What about setbacks? What are they?
Fall zone.
Just the fall zone.
Fall zone.
That's, yeah, do we need to put that in the ordinance, or is that just a legal thing?
We should
Is that just
state
accepted
it. I mean,
State
this is
it,
what this
yeah.
definition exempting steeples is talking about, is
Can't
a
go
fall
greater
zone.
than that.
You can't go beyond the fall zone. So
Can
they
we
draw big.
say can't be in residential, we can't be in village district? Can we say any of that?
We can say it can't be, I think we can eliminate the causeway.
Mm-hmm.
The question is of the village, but, which would be very hard for them to meet anyway, the fall zone.
Yes.
Where are they gonna put one
Right.
that they're gonna meet the
Or
fall
even
Right,
the
there's
zone?
too much
shoreline
swamp.
zone.
Yeah,
That's-
shoreline,
that's-
and shoreline.
If I get my way, village district is gonna be bigger.
Oh, yeah, that's
So,
true.
and someday,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if it goes down to Black Bear or to Chianti's,
Chianti's, yeah.
then there's areas that it could be.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
I don't, it's,
I'd like to see the commercial zone a bit bigger with different uses, different tiers of
Also,
uses.
is there any FHA laws that on height requirements close to an airport?
There is, but they deal with that, they file for that when, that's part of their
Like how
permitting
close to an
process.
airport?
They have to file with the FHA, and the FHA gives them the thumbs up
I
or
was
the
gonna
thumbs
say, 'cause
down.
we literally have an airport. so-
Yeah, that's part of their criteria. I don't think we have to mention that because they have to get that certificate from FHA anyway.
Well, the reason why I'm saying is what you were saying, it's close to our waterways.
Yeah,
Long Lake is technically an airport.
it is.
Right,
So they
it is.
cannot build, technically cannot build so far, they have to build cell towers so far
Yeah.
away, so
I
much
think
farther away.
Naples Marina Field is on the airstrip.
Yeah, it is. So
Yeah, my bad.
I mean, realistically, the only place for them to go right now, the way our zoning is rural, to be, to be honest, and which is residential in most cases.
Right.
But it's really the only place that they're even looking at too, because when you think about Naples,
Right.
along the that's the lower area, right? This is all the lower area, and they're looking up on they looked at 3 sites when they cited theirs, and all of those sites were in the rural zoning district.
And chances are they're gonna be visible from one waterway or another.
From somewhere.
Yeah, Brandy Pond, Long Lake.
Pretty
I
much
mean, because
all-
they're up on,
Yeah.
they can't not be.
Yeah.
So we can't use that as a,
So I think we're looking at a definition for commercial tower, not
A cell
commercial tower,
phone,
cell
yeah.
phone tower.
cell phone
Definition.
cellular service, no.
And maybe it's a communications tower, I don't know, let me look at what other towns are naming it, because there might be other things in there that I'm not thinking about.
Yeah.
We need standards, associated standards, and we need performance, with those standards, a performance guarantee, and we need to limit which districts they're allowed in. And that may be rural, that might be the only one, it won't be critical rural, because that's very, we don't have critical rural on our map.
Yeah,
So
I've never understood that.
yeah, because I don't think you guys ever adopted the critical rural from 2006.
Okay.
At that, I don't see anywhere where that part of the land use map was adopted.
What's a
Don't know
critical?
why.
What's a critical rural?
The critical rural is actually designed to be more protected, and it required a 60,000 square foot lot.
No,
And there was, in the 2006 comp plan, it was shown in blue, and that portion of the land use map never got adopted. Only rural, dense, something, can't think of what the areas.
Growth area.
Growth
which
area,
is
residential
a
growth area.
ridiculous area.
Basically, what was adopted is what's already on the ground.
Yes.
The residential growth was already fully developed, there's really not room for more. And then you have rural, and you have commercial, and you have village, and the causeway overlay. So, I mean, the causeway overlay, we don't want it. The commercial is all along the corridor, you're not gonna have a cell phone right along the corridor. You're not gonna have it in, rural growth area, because there's no place to put it, and you don't want it there, because there's houses everywhere. So really, the only zoning district where it could go would be rural right now.
Right.
As we go through the comp plan, and we do have other maybe zoning districts, then maybe we would have to be looking at changing this again later. But that's gonna be everything, I mean, we're gonna be making changes to the ordinance anyway. I think we're just looking at putting something in here to, make it clear if any other cell phone towers decide to come. Because we struggled with that one, we didn't have the
Yeah,
right
we haven't had-
definition,
right.
we didn't have, it was really tight, and they had to go get a zoning board, had to give them a variance for the height, which seems kind of silly, right? So,
Okay, so you have
to go
enough
get
to go.
a variance that they had to grant,
That they had to
because
grant.
we can't not
Right.
allow a cell phone tower somewhere, that
Right.
seems silly.
Right, so there's our answer right there.
Yeah.
And we can't limit it ridiculously by height.
By height.
But I'm wondering if we could limit it by,
Design,
or that it doesn't need the light on the top.
so
that-
low FHA.
Yeah, FHA,
Yeah.
whatever, I don't know.
Well, let's do
That
it,
would-
and
that would be nice.
let's do it and send,
Try.
let's do it and send it to, because if they, clearly Verizon could do what they needed to do under
Right.
that threshold.
Yeah,
So let's try it, and,
and that certainly wasn't the highest spot in town either,
No.
so,
Alright.
and it had a lot of high trees around it.
so that's
So
all,
is that
that's all I
kinda like
have for today, because I put these other on the back burner.
Okay, could I just add something for the next meeting? And
Sure.
that is that we never really picked a vice chair for this.
We didn't?
No, that I'm aware of. Are any of you under the impression that you're the vice chair? If you are,
I can't remember.
I didn't think we did pick a vice chair, did we? Or did we?
I don't think so.
And we don't have
Okay.
very many
Oh,
of us
that's right.
here today.
It's a requirement or something that.
Well, I mean, that's what it says in our bylaws.
Let's go back and look at the meeting recording and see if
Well,
we did.
nobody here thinks they're the vice chair.
There's not here that we can vote in.
Unless I missed a meeting.
I nominate Sue. All those in favor,
Let's
second?
put it on the next,
Second.
let's put it on the next agenda for
Let's
change.
nominate her.
Yeah. Let's put it on the next agenda for nominated, if we find that we didn't do one.
And I'll
I
just-
honestly can't remember.
I can't either, but I just don't think we did.
We talked about it, but we didn't actually
Right.
do it.
And I'll just offer a public service announcement for the 5 people that may watch this, is that the comp plan vision statement draft is on the town website.
So,
So
Yeah.
please take a look at it, and all the comp plan meetings are public, so, we welcome feedback, and there's a way for you to give feedback online as well.
There is.
So please do that.
It takes you to a different website,
From
different
Very Done.
page from Very Done, but there is you can click on it and you can provide feedback.
Yeah. So that's it. So I think we're ready to adjourn.
we adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
we're adjourned. Great, thank you. Thank you, LRTV.
Lights out.